Welcome to the Spread, Nesson's football sports betting picks podcast. I am Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, and as always, by Nesson.com's Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Fine. Happy
you holding
New Year.
up physically?
Oh, we'll get to that.
A little mishap.
It was an eventful week off. I took a week off. It was nice. By the way, it's nice not to have to come here. It's no offense to you or anyone else who we share the space with, but just not having to commute has been a beautiful, beautiful blessing. But yeah, we're back in it for here in week 18 of the NFL season. We'll get to our picks at some point, I guess. It's a hard week.
Yeah. I can't believe we haven't talked on here since Christmas. Like, is there New Year's that feel like it's because of like the Christmas Day games, being on Wednesday, and it's just when I saw when you mentioned your little situation that you'll get into. When we were like exchanging what we were going to talk about today. I was like, oh wow, we haven't addressed that yet, huh?
The
it just feels
Christmas
like
games.
Yeah,
I know.
The holidays.
A lot has happened. It's I
feel like I'm a week behind.
Yeah, no, I got a developing take. I have out on Wednesdays as the Christmas New Year's Day. Like it's just they
do kind of blow.
No, because it's like
just trim the week a little bit.
I mean, it falls this way every year. Obviously, this Christmas is the same day of week as New Year's, and just like I don't know. I guess you and I especially have built enough cachet at this company where we could take time off if we really wanted to. It's difficult in this line of work.
Sure.
So it's just like when it's on a Wednesday, you're kind of like, do I take the time in before? Do I take time after? I take all of it. I mean, if we were smart, we would have taken all of it. But so it's just coming back in to do this. And then tomorrow's a holiday. We're recording this on Tuesday, New Year's Eve. And then it's like, what do you do with those extra 2 days? I guess you could take them off, but I think I'm coming back in. So when it happens in the middle of the week, it's just far messier.
The difficult part too is that because everybody comes at it from a different angle, when you're trying to like coordinate whether it's a meeting or like anything like that, you don't know people's availability. Right. You'll send out a meeting invite to 12 different people, but you're talking about 9 different schedules.
Sure. And there are people in this company who are seemingly immune to the same, structure that we hold ourselves to.
Yeah.
Which is maybe an us problem at a certain point.
It was a lot of it.
There's a lot of it is an us problem. If you go look at my PTO bank and the amount that I'm going to end up burning at the end of this year, it's a Mike problem. But so how was your Christmas?
It was good.
Yeah,
it was good.
Did you guys go out for dinner again or?
No. It was much more traditional. Play a little pond hockey.
Oh,
which was nice.
Where?
Up in York, Maine.
Oh, you got to go pretty far up. It's still a little.
So really cool, actually. Like my brother's neighbor is like the one who maintains this little like area. It's like 2 rinks, one bigger, one smaller. And it's like such a small town sort of thing. Like he just drives up and like if people are still playing, keeps the lights on. There's no time limit or anything like that. So it was really cool. It was the first time I'd been on skates in a little bit though. Probably since when we went skating at Fenway that time a few years ago.
I was just thinking about this recently because I've seen a ton of videos of people skating.
My car battery died that day.
Did it really?
Yeah, I always have have a vehicle problem.
Well, our car battery died over the break.
That's how I mark my life events. Like what was going on with my car that day?
We had the Sunday before Christmas. Wife's car battery died. It's just
contagious.
So that's good. That sounds fun. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, it was nice.
I was up until 1:30 on Christmas Eve putting together a John Deere tractor for my son.
That's pretty sweet, though.
The thing is sick.
Yeah.
So it's a tractor plus a trailer. He only got the tractor because the trailer is maybe the most difficult thing I've ever put together. And it was the directions were not good. I was on YouTube at 12:45 on Christmas Eve watching videos of 2 British guys going through the same struggles and just following them. I eventually bailed on the trailer because it was such a disaster and just flipped over to the tractor and got that thing, carried it up the stairs. My wife called me literally like 12:50 and was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm technically okay." So, it's kind of nice to be back in some regards too in that case. So, I know you don't have that issue without. Well, I guess Steve puts together stuff for your
No, yeah, my brother's really good with that stuff.
God,
so when it comes
so
to like
bad,
anything
man.
with my nephews, like even if like I get them something that requires being put together, I just show up with the box.
That's my brother does the
like,
same thing, and I.
My brother is like, he'll look at it and he's got like this weird vision where he's just like, oh, I know how long that's gonna take, like how I'm gonna scatter this all over the floor, and I'm just like, all right.
I like to think that I am
balls in your court now.
I like to think I'm a bit of a wordsmith. I think you and I communicate pretty well here. I think we do an okay job for what this is. I think I'm a decent writer. I think we talk about this a lot, where it's like we communicate on a level that not just you and I, but like our written communications, I think, are pretty effective. Like it's our job. I'm so bad with this other when I have to start using my hands. I am admittedly,
but that's the thing, right?
It's embarrassing how bad I am. It's
but
embarrassing.
What we can kind of do is like diagnose the problem. Like it's like a lot of times it's like, well, I think it's probably that. But I'm just so god awful at fixing that.
I still have problems even getting to. But I will
like
say,
anything related to cars.
One thing I'm good at, though, and this is from our job, is I can Google stuff. So I'll get to like this is
research.
Yes, exactly.
A big strong suit for us.
Research is like
that's how we fake it every week.
This is how we fake stuff. Yeah. So speaking of, we'll get to our picks in a second here. So that's that. That's our Christmas check-in. I think it was I don't know. I got a drone for Christmas, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, you've been big on the drone scene.
Already broken. So the batteries just broke, I guess, after one use. So I emailed them, and they're like, "Yeah, it sounds like the batteries are this. Did you try this, this, and this?" I was like, "Yep, I did that." They're like, "Oh, so it sounds like the batteries are going to need to be replaced. We don't make that model anymore, so we don't have any batteries. So you're going to have to reach out to Walmart." And it's just like,
oh man,
we're doing the runaround already. So
once you get to like the we don't make that anymore. That's a tough reality because
there's no way around that. Yeah,
I have this old pitching machine from like when I was in probably Little League, and it's like I think it's called a Zuka. Yeah, and it's like a bazooka shaped.
Yeah,
and like my dad still insists that he can get the thing up and running. And I'm like, they haven't. I don't know. I think now he uses my nephews as the excuse. Okay. Like, I'd like to get the Zuka going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But prior to that, I think it was just like he just wanted to flex his muscle a bit. I don't know. But he's running into the issue where like I can't imagine they make a battery for it anymore. But he's very insistent, so we'll see.
Worst. It's just like, so you get the email back the first time and like, we're committed to doing anything we can to help you resolve this in a way that is satisfactory. 2 emails later, not a whole lot we can do for you. It's like, all right, cool, that's fun.
Fortunately, we know a drone guy.
Yeah, so that's but like it's the drone game. I've started to kind of dive into that. It is, I mean, there's a massive kids like just we are so far apart in these, and that's fine. Like I'm working on it. I also don't have $10,000 to spend on one of these things, but it's a trip. I got it up there. I did use it once, and it was flying around. I'm like, oh boy, I live close to Hanscom though, so like literally my backyard is in like no fly territory. So I had to go like down the street to the park.
Might that have something to do with why it broke?
No, because I took it somewhere else where I could use it. No, who knows? That's the other thing too. These, I feel like now I can get in on the. I can make some viral videos too of my drones. They're like, oh, I saw. Yeah. We're past the drone thing, I think. But any New Year's plans? What do you think of New Year's?
What do I think of it?
Yeah.
When I get to this point in the year, I'm just ready to just move on.
But like, move on is like. I mean, like, do you have plans tonight?
I do. Yeah. Well, but I also don't know when this is going live. So, do we really want to talk about?
I mean, I'm just like it's more of a general.
Yeah. I'm all right with it. But you know what it is? It's like I don't like going places on New Year's Eve. Like it's got to be somebody's got to have a gathering of sorts, which is kind of the plan here.
Good for you. Yeah, our son's birthday is New Year's Day, so that kind of takes away some of the.
That's tricky.
But I'm also washed at this point too. It's not like I'm going anywhere. Thanks for the invite, though.
Actually, no, that's probably convenient for you then. You get the day off anyways. So
it's an excuse. Yeah, yes and no. I feel bad for him because he never ever gets to have. It's kind of like having a summer birthday.
Yeah.
But you never get to have like the school party or whatever. So it is. It's a. I mean, I don't drink
there will
anymore
come a day
either,
when
so it's not like
he embraces that.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I'm not gonna wake up banged up the next morning, so that's nice too. So yeah, we're gonna find something to do. I don't know.
Speaking of banged up, you wanna tell us about your mishap?
So last week we talked about my unconventional workout program. Among the
which is
things
I grow more and more fascinated by the day. I think.
So I went out on. So this would have been the 26th. 26th was a busy day for me. Before getting into the drone, that was the day I was flying the drone. Finally, take a deep breath after Christmas. So morning after Christmas, I gotta get out and get some. That's the other thing. I've been like. It's like a cookie toll at my house right now. You walk through the kitchen, it's just like grab a cookie, go on to your next thing. It's not good. So you got to get out there and run around. And I told you last week I like to burn 400 to 600 calories just running around, kicking a football, running after it, throwing it, kicking field goals, doing sprints. It's kind of just whatever I figure out.
Solo game of fetch.
That's the depressing way of putting it.
Golden retriever.
Yeah, that's the depressing way of putting it. So I was running around. We still had snow on the ground. That's a major point to this. And so I'm just barely into it. Actually, I guess I'm maybe halfway through. Punt the ball down the field. Go pick it up, go to punt it back. I'm a sick punter now, by the way. Not on this one. So I go to punt it. I did kick it. I come down on my left foot, my plant foot, slip, fall down, and in the process, get my right foot caught behind my knee. Yeah. And so I fell basically like an accordion. And
you've had knee problems in the past.
I have, of my other knee. So I was like, Jesus Christ, here we go. So I hit the ground with my back is over my knee or whatever.
So your wife knows you do this, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And she's like, you got to stop.
Does she, I was going to say, does she, like when you go out the door, like,
no, because I go.
Hey, be careful out there.
I go very early in the morning before she even wakes up because I don't even want to be like, it's just sad to be like walking out the door and be like, I'm going to play football by myself.
Kids walking by on their way to school.
Yeah, I go very early. It's like before the sun even comes up. And so I come down, I just fall, and I'm laying on the ground. And I even took a picture of it. I'll show you. I thought I ripped my knee to shreds. It was, for a second, an excruciating pain that just shot through my knee. And I was like, oh, my God. I've never torn anything. It was pretty brutal. The pain was very sharp, very quick. I was like, uh-oh. And then I went my first thought was I tore my ACL. My second thought was, oh, God, I work in an office where I'm going to have to be crutching around, and I'm going to have to tell
way worse than any of the physical pain.
So this is
how am I going to explain this in the break room?
This is all in the span of 30 seconds. Yeah, that's all I'm thinking about. It's like talking to the people I don't totally like, and they're like, "Wow, what happened there?" And it's like, "Oh, I got it." It's not just like I was skiing or something. It's like, no, I was playing football
though, you probably
myself.
did better off just saying
true.
that.
Snowboarding accident. And so
get you out of the ski trip.
So that was my second thought. My third thought was like, oh, God, I can't wait to tell Ricky. We were just talking about it. And then so a minute passes. I'm like, this actually isn't that bad. The pain kind of went away. I got up and it was like walking on it. And it's like, started walking more. And I ran on it a little bit. I actually finished the workout. And I think I'm like, I'm good. And then it started hurting. I started getting home.
I love to have seen you testing it out. Get you in the blue tent.
Oh, yeah. So I got home and started Googling it. I've diagnosed myself with a slight PCL injury. Not entirely sure what it is because the pain is in the back.
This is where the research comes in.
So exactly,
and being able to diagnose the. Now you're not going to be able to fix it probably.
So, and I don't.
But
think
what the problem is.
I don't think it's anything major. I dodged a major bullet. I almost think this doesn't make any sense. I almost think my ligaments are too taut that I couldn't pull it far enough to tear it, which doesn't make any sense. But it's like the pain will get worse. It said. Blah blah blah, and the pain did get worse as the day went on. I was like, but it's kind of been manageable. I've got a brace for it, so I've been.
That is the next day or the next few days or what? Because that's what'll get you. I
started reading it. I was like, the pain gets progressively worse. I was like, oh, did I just shake it off with adrenaline, and now I'm gonna have to actually go to the doctor?
My mom, she slipped on ice a week or two ago. Oh man, it's like the chalk outline of your body. And she was the same thing where at first she's like, it's not, it hurts, but it's not too bad. Right. But then once that adrenaline wears off, which that was my fear, so I ate it going up the stairs on Christmas night.
Oh.
I was trying to carry stuff in the house, and I was like, it was the classic, like, look at me, I can carry all the groceries in one fell swoop sort of deal. And I knew my stairs are icy, so, like, I have nobody to blame but myself.
You still have some youthfulness then, huh? Because, like, well, I guess with the groceries I do that. I've started to kind of just
pace yourself with the trips.
Lean into stuff like that. Like, it's not worth it. Because it's literally, I've had this thought before. It's like, what if it's something I'm on crutches, I'm in a cast. Yeah. Like, I'm screwed. Like, I'm just screwed. We would be remote this week.
This is one I guess is, you know what's slowing me down is the paper bags at supermarkets.
That's a whole other,
we'll get into that. That's a whole other ball of wax. But that, like, forces me to take multiple trips. I used to be like,
I picked up my son
plastic
yesterday.
Bags on the arms.
I picked up my son. There's a Stop and Shop near his school, and we were going to go to Stop and Shop afterwards, a different one, because I had to get stuff. So I went to the first Stop and Shop literally just to buy the bags. And then I picked them up, and then we went to the other Stop and Shop because the bags are a game changer. You do need the bags.
Yeah, you definitely need.
But now I got like 100 of them because I keep forgetting wherever we go.
They don't charge you for the anymore. So we'll come back. We'll circle.
That's the other thing.
It's off season stuff that we can definitely. It's probably an hour where we can dive into bag talk.
100%. I love bag talk. If bag talk is your thing, make sure to join us every week here on The Spread, Nesson's Football and Sports Betting Picks podcast. We're getting to the busy time of year, so make sure you tune in and join us every week on Thursdays. We give you our NFL picks. We'll be doing playoffs as it gets later here in the year or into the new year. You can watch on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Or if you want to just listen to us the old-fashioned way, you can do that on wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, various outlets like that. Before we get into our picks, I did want to revisit a preseason topic that you and I, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on picks, because there's just there's no point.
This is very, I feel like we're big picture today.
Yes,
It's a good way to wrap up the year.
So, I don't know if you recall, we more or less feels like we spend every week of the offseason doing some sort of quarterback discussion and quarterback ranking. And so, as a Packers fan, I had some uncomfortable thoughts over the weekend with my quarterback, Jordan Love, standing within the NFL at the position where I don't even think he's close to the best quarterback in his division right now. And honestly, with what the Vikings and Lions are doing, Goff and Darnold might be top 10 quarterbacks. So I wanted to revisit some of the discussions that we had previously about the top 10 quarterbacks or whatever, the top tier, and kind of reassess that. So I did find a couple things. We did some tier rankings over the summer.
Oh, we did.
Actually in the spring. This was after the draft.
Yeah.
Our
love
top
tiers.
Tier 1 was Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud, and Jordan Love. Then we had a 1.5 tier. I think I put that in when I was writing the story with Aaron Rodgers, and because we were just kind of unsure. We made the case for Caleb Williams to be a potential top 10 quarterback, at least moving forward. Justin Herbert, we talked about him basically being on the pot and needed to pooping. He needed to poop. You said we got the roll of toilet paper ready to go, and he just hasn't delivered. Feels like he's really close to pooping, so good for him.
Yeah, he's squeezing it out.
I also mentioned that we've been potty training my son. A year passes. He is now fully potty trained, so just tying the knot on that thing. Yeah. We were kind of talking, like, give him the chance to take Justin Herbert, knowing that you have to pay him, or Caleb Williams on his rookie deal. Which way do you go? I mentioned I don't totally trust the name Caleb. Maybe if his name was Jake, we would have been a little bit better. I think I even called Joe Burrow a little stinky. We're not totally sold on that. That has not aged well. So that was kind of where we were at then. In our
you had the concern about his gloves.
I think the gloves is preseason.
All right.
So, yeah, we had our tier 2. In our tier 2, we had Herbert, Stafford, Lawrence, Tua, Dak, Hurts, Goff, Purdy, Cousins, Murray. Obviously, Darnold nowhere to be found. We talked about the contracts, Love versus Tua. We nailed that. I think the Love thing is aging better than Tua's. And then kind of going into our season preview, we did a draft where we went back and forth basically until we ran out of time. And we had our consensus among the two of us. Top 6 was Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, and Justin Herbert. I wondered maybe if the Bills' window had closed. That wasn't great. We both were in agreement on Dak Prescott at number 5. And on Herbert, we thought maybe next year he would be a top 3 quarterback if it progressed well with. So we were kind of
I don't feel terrible about those rankings.
In the neighborhood. So now we're here at the end of the season. I did some math. I crunched the numbers. I took QBR, Pro Football Focus grades, and EPA plus CPOE, and just basically averaged them all out. Lamar, number 1 in all of them for the 2024 season. So he feels like the consensus number 1, at least on a statistical base, followed by Burrow, Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes. So, long way of saying, has your thoughts on the top 10 or whatever, the quarterback hierarchy, has that changed at all for you? Especially in wake of we have a massive number 1 seeding matchup this week with 2 quarterbacks we maybe were sleeping on coming into the season.
Not really.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know,
these are so hard to figure out how, the time frame.
We could move some names around, maybe drop a name off here, add a name there, but by and large, that top tier coming into the season.
You don't want to get rid of Dak Prescott.
We can get rid of him, but I think it's a pretty clear 4 of Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Allen.
Yeah, however you want to rank those.
And then there's the rest. I think that's become clear, and you're kind of including Mahomes just based on the pedigree because the numbers aren't necessarily great this year.
My proprietary statistical rankings did not turn out very well for him.
But that's a pretty clear cut 4 in my opinion.
I tend to agree. I think on any given Sunday, whoever is in that second tier could really make a case for that top tier. I also think the development is that second tier got a lot bigger. Well, maybe not bigger, but it's a lot better than maybe we thought at the start of the season. Where I think you really do. I was thinking this watching the Lions on Monday night. Got to give Jared Goff his credit. And so is it system based? I don't know. Is it talent around him based? I don't know. But there's mounting evidence where it's just he's really good. And Darnold, I'm a little less convinced, but these guys are in that conversation now. In a group that already includes Jordan Love, C.J. Stroud, Baker Mayfield, even Jalen Hurts, Stafford. It's a pretty good top half of the league in quarterbacks.
Yeah, I had a similar thought watching Darnold, really for the last month or so.
Packers on Sunday, yeah.
That I've come around on the idea that if you're Minnesota, there's no way you can lose him this offseason. I don't care how high you are on J.J. McCarthy.
I've seen people suggest they even trade McCarthy, and I think that's at least a conversation that's worth having.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet.
No, I would at least. It's on the board.
Sure, but I think to just turn around and hand the keys to McCarthy with 0 NFL experience and coming off a serious injury for a team that's going to win 13 of 14 games, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. That would be negligence, right? I don't know what form it takes on that you keep Darnold.
I'm also not entirely sure what their cap situation looks like either, so there's that.
But it works, and teams go decades trying to find something that comes close to mirroring what they've had on offense this season. You can't let that go.
Isn't this kind of similar to what maybe the 49ers have gone through the last handful of years, where it's is it the coach or the system? Is it the quarter? You know what I mean? Is that maybe something they consider too, where it's we feel comfortable walking away. We have to make a tough decision here because
it sent Trey Lance packing pretty quickly, right? And they sort of cut their losses. Now, I think the 49ers were in such a unique spot that that roster was pretty clear. They were in the Super Bowl conversation. Minnesota, it still feels like they're exceeding expectations, although the
number 1 seed.
Although the more I'll be on, they're my 1 year pick. Yeah. The more I watch them, no, this team's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's just time to call it what it is. They're good, and I
do think they have a brilliant coaching staff, and I think this was a tenet that we talked about with the quarterback conversation earlier in the year. Coaching is the number 1 thing at this point, I think. That feels dicey in a quarterback league, but right? So they've got it on both sides of the ball. They've been remarkably healthy too.
Yeah, I just think if you're Minnesota and all of a sudden you're putting J.J. McCarthy in a position and just it just ugh. Like he comes out week 1 and struggles next year. If they moved on from Darnold, however that looked, I mean, it's just all season long he's going to be dealing with that. Ooh. Now, if you bring Darnold back on a franchise tag again, I don't know what the cap situation is, but he struggles and then you turn over to McCarthy, which is I guess similar to kind of like what Atlanta did, where
I was
you figure
just going to bring
Kirk Cousins is the guy, but all of a sudden you get midway through the year and there you go.
That's a good, interesting point. And McCarthy's tied into this as well. Caleb Williams, who we mentioned, Drake May is lingering, and obviously Jaden Daniels. Like that rookie class is looking more and more impressive. Where it's like when we have this conversation again next year or whatever, it's those guys are firmly entrenched in that group. And I also think one thing I wanted to get out there when we're talking about quarterback or rookie quarterbacks too is I think Caleb Williams might be slightly underrated at this point, if that makes sense. I know a lot of the numbers are garbage time, but like the situation is just such a massive disaster that like, and I guess you could say the same thing about Drake May, and May has performed slightly better, but I'm not bailing on any one of those guys.
No, yet. I've seen enough.
Bo Nix is up there too.
I've seen enough like in spurts that I'm like, there's something there. Like you get some quarterbacks in their rookie season, they play, and you're just like, okay, this is pretty evident early on that there's nothing to work with.
That guy this year, right?
I don't think so. No.
I'm trying to think if there's like a rookie, but
even very very small sample size. But even Penix has showed a little bit. Like I think you saw that in the final drive and his most recent game, and
even in that second drive, he threw a ball that was like I didn't watch a ton of that game, but it was just like he put a little something on that. And it's like, oh, that is take your breath away. Spencer Rattler, technically a rookie, he stinks.
Sure, yeah,
so,
I think I didn't really have expectations for him, anyways.
No, I didn't.
But so I think the big picture thing for me is that there's that clear four. That second group, like you said, is probably bigger than we envisioned. But I also think it's very like rotational.
That's
like,
year by year, right?
Like that could be that second tier could be very fluid.
Well, that's the thing. We had Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, and Kyler Murray in that group. Brock Purdy as well. Couple of them are probably still in that tier, but they've fallen out. But if like Trevor Lawrence is back a year from now, would it be surprising?
Well, so maybe this is where I land for when I say like my overall thoughts haven't changed all that much, is because when I look at that second tier and I'm like, who's most likely to make the jump into tier 1 next season? I still come back to a lot of the same names. Like I still believe in Jordan Love, and I still think C.J. Stroud could get back to that level where this has just been a year where he's been kind of snake bitten. So like, I don't know. I think you just see some of the talent with those younger quarterbacks, and it's like I could envision a scenario where next year, the year after, we start talking about them being tier 1 guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Darnold and Goff, it's like I don't know. Like
I'm willing to bet
this is probably the best we're ever going to see of those guys, and if that's them being and that's it's very good,
pretty good.
But I don't know if there's like another level for Jared Goff.
Probably not, but I mean he's playing at an MVP.
But is that tier 1?
Now. I mean, if he wins the Super Bowl, I don't think
tier
he cares.
2. I don't know.
Tier 1.5, I guess. I don't know.
He's like in the 8 to 12 range guy.
Yeah. Well, we are certainly a tier 1 podcast here with the Spread and Essence football picks, sports picks, and NFL betting podcast as part of the Nesson family of podcasts and vodcasts, of course. If you want to join us, especially for this playoff stretch run, check back every Thursday on the Nesson YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch pages if you want to watch us, or if you want to listen to us. Maybe when you're making when you're out kicking footballs around on an empty field, you can download the podcast and listen to it on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else you get your audio podcasts. All right, before we do get in, we're
gonna make picks, right?
Well, yeah, we'll get to it. So I think it's a weird week. This is just a precursor. It's a weird week. The playoff field is pretty much set. Like there's some things that need to get. I think the NFC South is the only real big one that needs to be decided, and it's pretty clear where that is going to likely end up. KC is locked in at number 1 in the AFC. Buffalo locked in at number 2. Baltimore almost certainly is going to be a 3 seed, and that means Houston is locked into the 4. 5 through 7, Pittsburgh, Denver, and the Chargers probably all will get in, right? I'm not missing anything crazy there.
I mean, it would.
Are they all in already?
No, the last seed's up for grabs.
Oh,
Miami
right.
could technically still get in.
Yep. Cincinnati could still get in.
Yeah.
So there is some drama there. And then in the NFC, we have an NFC North title game on Sunday night. The winner of that gets first seed and a bye. The loser has to go on the road as the 5th seed. That seems a little unfair. Philly locked into 2. The Rams in at 3 probably. The NFC South is either going to be Tampa or Atlanta. Most likely is going to be Green Bay at 7 and Washington at 6. So, with all that being said, what is your 1-unit pick as we kind of shuffle through this week?
It is so crazy, right, that like a team like the Lions could be, for really all of this season, you're just like, that's probably the best team in the NFL, or at least one top 2 or 3 teams, and all of a sudden they're going on the road. They could be one and done.
Them going to Tampa Bay, I'd be like, they might get upset here. Yeah. Because their defense is not...
That could be 85 points scored in that game, too.
Yep.
But so I'm looking at that game for this week, and I'm taking Minnesota. I'm taking the points, 2.5
Feels
on the road
a little
in
reactionary,
Detroit.
But I think I'm with you.
Like I think I'm just at a point where, well, another factor, short week for Detroit coming off. It feels like they left they used a lot of bullets in that game against San Francisco.
They did.
For whatever reason, like that felt like they were trying to prove a point.
I kind of liked it though. Like it might cost them,
but like,
and it did last year. They played their starters in Week 17.
Yeah,
and so it's like
you respect like the keep the foot on the gas.
It's the same thing with like the 4th down stuff. It's all connected.
But on the on the verge of a game of this magnitude this week, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't know if it was the best move. I've just kind of come around on Minnesota. Like they're a team that there's a lot of things like there's a lot of game wrecking ability on both sides of the ball. Like the defense, their ability to flush their quarterbacks has been evident throughout the season. We just talked about the quarterback play they've been getting, like the playmakers, the weapons that they have. I certainly undersold them coming into the season, like outside of Justin Jefferson. It's just a good, complete team, and most importantly, perhaps, is that it's a very well-coached team.
Yep.
They've built something. They have a culture, which is the thing that so many teams struggle to find, is probably that thing.
Yeah.
That thing you have to have before you make meaningful progress. And I've seen it from them. So I'm done overlooking them, and I think Detroit coming off of this game on the against the 49ers, short week, all of the injuries, which I think are going to catch up to them at some point, they are primed to be upset here. I think Minnesota could win this outright.
Yeah, I agree. So
who's this game more important for? Detroit?
Yeah, both. I don't know. Like it's a pretty clear. Like the stakes are pretty clear, right? One way or another, you win. You have a bye, and the road goes through your home stadium. I think it's more important for Minnesota because I think they need. I don't think either of them really need home field advantage. I think they benefit more from it than Detroit does. I don't have any qualms about the Lions going on the road. I probably will end up reversing course on this with like my Jared Goff outdoor thing, but like I don't think that's a huge deal anymore. I think they are mentally tough. They're coached well. Like I think they embrace that idea, which is not to say that the Vikings don't. I just think the Vikings kind of fit their home thing better than Detroit does.
Yeah. I guess where I'm at with like these two teams as well is just like as Minnesota has been on their sort of constant upward trajectory this season, and Detroit dealing with all the injuries they're dealing with, like the talent gap between these two teams is, if not even, it is getting very, very close, which is something I never envisioned saying about these two teams.
Which is a perfect dovetail into my 1-unit pick, which is what frustrates me so much about the Packers and the way that they've played in the division. I think they have a close amount of talent to those teams too. I don't think the talent gap is huge from 1 to 3 in this division. That being said, I'm taking Chicago catching 9.5 points at Green Bay. It sounds like the Packers will play their starters. I do wonder how long they'll play them for. So this is the thing. This is a big issue. Injuries, once again, huge. Jair Alexander, do you know what he's dealing with, by the way? Do you know what his injury is?
No.
Torn PCL. So I get it. as a PCL survivor myself, I understand that that's a tough injury to come back from. Safety Evan Williams has been out. Quay Walker, linebacker's been out. Christian Watson's got a knee injury that caused him to miss the game this past week. Then they find a guy like Zane Anderson, who's been a nice little backup with Williams being hurt. He gets injured, got a concussion. Devontae Wyatt gets a concussion. So, I think the Packers should be motivated to try to win this game. I think they would rather probably go to going to LA than they would want to go to Philly. I don't think it matters for them. I really don't. So, at the end of the day, I think it's more important to get out of this thing healthy and rested. On the other side, Chicago's defense has been okay, allowing 23 or fewer in 4 of their last 8. Packers have scored 25 at least in the last 6 games, but it's been kind of weirdly unimpressive. A lot of the offense last week came in garbage time. We've seen them kind of going through periods of inactivity offensively, so I do think there's a chance that the offense struggles here. And if there ever a game for Chicago to try and build something, it's this one. Can you get off the mat, end this losing streak, beat your rival? I mean, you can't spoil their season, but you can put them in a less advantage.
So they're in a much different spot. So, they're sitting at 4-12, and a team like the Giants are sitting at 3-13. It's there's certain teams you look at and you're like, all you're doing by winning is hurting your draft positioning. Yeah. The Bears don't feel like that because the Bears feel like they have something already, enough talent in place and this and that, to where you're like, I think the win's more important.
Am I being way too narrative driven to say that this is a huge game for the Bears? No, because it's far more important for the Bears than the Packers. Maybe can you say that? I don't even know if you can say that. One team's going to the playoffs. But you know what I mean? I'm with you. There's nothing else to gain here other than trying to build some momentum going into the offseason. It's kind of
you already have the quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of if you go to the driving range or if you go to have a golf lesson, you just need to see it a couple times to see it go straight to be all right, I've got this figured out.
Your last ball, you always want it to be a good one.
Shooting hoops, you need to see it go through the
Nobody's walking off the court on a miss.
Right, yeah, and I think they're kind of, yes, I think that's where they're at right now. So I think they're going to be motivated. I don't know if they win this game, but I think they're going to give the Packers a game, and 9.5 feels kind of a lot in this situation.
Packers could have a really tough road, huh?
Yeah, it's not good.
There's a chance that they'll have to go on the road. They'll have to face the top 3 teams, right?
So there's been a lot of 2010 talk in Packers circles, at least at various points of this year. They have struggled to beat good teams, so that's an issue. It does feel a lot like 2010. Same thing happened in 2010, where even to the point where they had to go to Chicago and beat a division rival in the NFC Championship game. You could be looking at a similar spot here if they're lucky enough to get through, is that they're going to have to go to Detroit or Minnesota and exercise some demons there. So, yeah, it's a tough road to hoe. I think they're good. I think they could go on a run, but it's just you see it far too often, especially this year with Matt LaFleur's teams. Is in the biggest moments they kind of pee down their leg at least early, and then they do a great job to get back in the game. The fact that was a 2-point game on Sunday was insane. The game was not nearly that close, but they've done that a handful of times this year against good teams that they fell behind. So, if they put it all together and get their heads out of their asses, they can do it. But I don't know if I have confidence in that happening.
Yeah. I think by and large it's a very good wild card field.
Yeah.
Wild card weekend has the potential to be pretty good.
Which is why I kind of want it could be even better. I think if it shakes out in a way where Washington has to go to Philly and the Packers go to the Rams, I think those from a football standpoint are a bunch better matchups. And no matter what, that 4-5 game is going to be sick. If it's the worst thing that can happen in Week 18 for me is the Bucs find a way to piss away the NFC South, because they are so much more entertaining than even a Michael Penix led Falcons team. So 56.5 is a total for Lions Bucs.
It's got to be.
So I'm pulling for that. I think that's the best.
Yeah, the Lions especially are you can tell they're just we got to outscore everybody.
It's so funny. You're just talking about the wild card, and it's just those two teams are so good that you're almost don't even consider one of them in this conversation. Where you're just yeah, there's another team in there, right? Oh yeah, it's the loser of this game, which is going to be a 14-3 team. That's tough. So. Yeah, that's that. I think I got one more of these, right? I think a promo. Yeah. What's not tough is joining us for the spread, Nesson's Football and Sports Betting Picks podcast. You can do that every week on Thursdays or wherever else you want to consume this content. If you want to watch, you can watch it on the YouTube page, Facebook page, or Twitch page of Nesson. And if you would like to listen to it, which is also a wonderful option, go over wherever you download your podcast, whether that's Spotify or Apple. And there's a handful of other places you can get it. I get it somewhere else. So go find it wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you join us for what should be an awesome playoff run. Before we get into our 2-unit picks, it is kind of wild that we'll be doing playoff picks next week.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking about this round that we just said was 6. So I can't wait for that. What's your 2-unit
play? We'll have to figure out how we want to tackle it.
I know, I have no idea.
Then we'll get to the morning of.
We will figure it out the morning of. Exactly. What's your 2-unit play?
All right, so this game is really testing like your head versus your heart sort of deal, because I have not been able to quit the Bengals this season.
Right.
And they're still there. They're still alive. There's like a 10% chance of something. They need a lot to happen. So I'm not sure they get in, even if they do take care of business. And this is a game too where I look on the road in Pittsburgh getting a 1.5 is a classic home underdog spot for a Mike Tomlin coach team. So, it's just a lot of push and pull here and inner turmoil, if you will. So I think I just settled on, I'm going to look at the total instead. And I'm going to go under 48.5 for this Bengals-Steelers game. I think it just gets it's just classic AFC North football, late in the air. I think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah.
As good as Joe Burrow has been, the hype's getting a little crazy after this past week.
We're doing MVP talk all of a sudden.
I know. Which, look, Joe Burrow's been awesome, and I think he deserved to be in that conversation a couple weeks ago. I don't think he wins it, but I think everybody's sort of caught on to that whole narrative, and there's a reason that Cincinnati is fighting for their playoff lives right now. This is just a game where it's hard for me to lay a 1.5 with them on the road. I think Pittsburgh can make it ugly. I know the identity of Pittsburgh has sort of fluctuated throughout the course of this season. Right now, their offense looks broken. So I think what they're going to do is step it up defensively, make this a lower scored game than maybe we'd be accustomed to seeing between these two teams. So under 48.
The Patriots in
it's a high total.
Patriots in some small way are going to end up knocking out maybe the most dangerous team in the AFC, where it's can you just beat the worst team in football in week 1 and find a way to get in? So, that's a fine game. You like that Saturday slate? We got the AFC North dominating Saturday.
So Cincinnati needs to win and then have a Denver loss to Kansas City and a Miami loss or tie to the Jets. A Denver loss to Kansas City doesn't feel like it's in play.
Oh, I think that's more likely than a
really.
Well, Dolphins too is hurt, so.
If I'm Kansas City, I'm tanking that game because I would rather see Denver down the road than having to run into Cincinnati.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But do you really? I just think they could still win by 10. I think these teams that are so good, they just are institutionally so strong that they
back their way into a win. Yeah, you do see that.
I looked it up last year. There was a handful of games where we would have been having the same conversation, and I think the Chiefs are one of them. They won. There's it doesn't always happen.
Once you try to get into the inner psyche of teams, that's a tricky game to play.
Quick aside, this annoys me where it's like
Giants Colts last week.
Shut up on the internet. It's just such a weird thing to be to A, think you have any idea what another human being's motivations are is insane. B, the most motivated human beings in the world are professional athletes, especially football players who have to go out there and you can't take it slow.
It was that was one thing I did about Dan Campbell coming out of that Monday night game.
This is what I'm saying. Is I think
being asked about that, and it's kind of you can only sit so many guys, and you don't have the luxury of being we're just gonna swap out all 22 guys.
Honestly, I think I'd rather pick a lane and go, and live with the consequences than try to pick and choose, because that's how you end up running into problems. So, Speaking of picking and choosing.
So you think the Eagles should lean on Saquon Barkley to go for the rushing record?
So, this is a thing. Whoa.
Flip the table.
I'm taking the Eagles laying 3.5, laying 3 at home against the Giants. Philly's already locked into the 2 seed, as I said. Sirianni said they haven't decided whether Barkley will play. I guess by the time you and I are done with this, it might be out there already. I think he's got a Wednesday press conference. He did point to the fact that they let Devontae Smith chase a rookie receiving record in 2021, whatever it was. Saquon's 101 yards short of Eric Dickerson. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, did they let him have the first half and then?
I think you probably first few drives see how it's trending.
But that's a lot of yards, man.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're in the first quarter and he's got 45 or something, you're like, okay, we're tracking that.
Giants just lay down for him.
But then maybe this goes back to your point that just pick a lane.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. So
either do it or don't.
I think they're gonna play. So my guess.
Also, who the hell cares?
I know. Well, that's the other thing.
Because I've seen people he has the extra game to do it. But then it's Eric Dickerson played more games than O.J. Simpson did. And in 3 years, we're probably going to have 20 game regular seasons at that point, and all these records are going to be broken.
So my true prediction is that they're going to play half. And they're going to say, if we can't do it by halftime, we're calling it. I think he probably doesn't get there, but I think they build a big enough lead in that first half that they can sit on this lead late. I think the Giants are let's just get out of here situation. I don't think they're like you kind of even brought it up. They're the antithesis of the Bears situation. They screwed themselves by going from the number 1 pick to the number 4 pick. But Drew Lock is playing for another contract, so I get it. This is what we're talking about. Malik Neighbors is trying to put up numbers. He's got another contract coming at some point. Every yard and touchdown matters. But they went from number 1 to number 4. They could fall all the way to number 8. They have now just a 5% chance of getting the number 1 pick. I think the Giants decision makers take that out of people's hands and say we're just kind of going to lay down here, and because I think they are a team that is absolutely brutalized by falling out of the top 3, or even I guess the top 3, because if the Patriots stay up there, chances are they're not taking a quarterback. There's a whole other conversation we get to at some point, but I just think this is a game where it's 27-10 or whatever, that we kind of are there's a team, but no, one team is much better than the other team. So, what do you want you to pick?
I'm not going to waste much time on this because I think we should get into some of the Patriots stuff you were just alluding to. I'm going to take the Panthers getting 7.5 in Atlanta, and this is one of those things where one team has a lot to play for. One team has nothing to play for. But it's you think Carolina's thinking in those terms, especially if you're a guy like Bryce Young, who's trying to piece his career back together. And now he's, I'm expected to lay 7.5 with a rookie quarterback coming off a short week in Michael Penix and the Falcons. I don't know. It's divisional game. Feels like too many points for me. Give me the plucky underdog to at least make this a challenging game, more so than maybe you anticipate.
Narrative cliche based. This is the game where we're just assuming the better team takes care of its business and hopes that the other team loses that they're chasing. But we look up on red zone at 3:42 and it's we
got something. Hold the phone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
This is a hold the phone game.
Yeah, and it's the story coming out of this is Bryce Young feels better about his career. We're going in the right direction. This is feeling good about the Panthers.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Bears.
Yep.
This is a game that I think
a more functioning Bears.
If you're the Panthers, you want to have this game.
Sure. Yep. Definitely, especially if it means knocking out a division rival. All right, my 3-unit pick, I'm taking the under in the Patriots Bills games. So it sounds like Josh Allen is going to start so he can keep his get rid of this week 18 nonsense. This is so bad. We're gonna Josh
he's
Allen
not Cal Ripken Jr. either.
I know, honestly, don't even bring him on the plane. Let him go relax for a week or something. It's so silly that he has to go all the way
Iron Man Josh Allen
sit in a hotel in Providence so he can trot out on Gillette Stadium in front of 42,000 people just to be all right, and go stand on the sideline for 3 hours, getting cramped and tightening up. So I don't think the Bills are going to play many guys at all. They are locked in as locked in gets. There's no real reason for them to play this game. So I think they're just going to let's get out of here. Even if our second string guys don't get hurt, whoever, keep the clock moving. Can we play with running time here? So I think that's going to be that case. It sounds like Drake May might not play for the Patriots either. If that's the case, this is a true preseason game, right? And Joe Milton who knows what we can expect from him. We do know that the receivers that he's going to be throwing to and the offensive line that he's going to be playing behind both suck. So there's no reason to think that he's going to do anything that Drake May hasn't or has done. And a couple little trend pattern things here. Last year, Week 18, 6 games went under 38.5. The year before, 7 games went under 38.5. And in 2021, 5 games went under 38.5. So, like, we do see these just borderline baseball scores in Week 18 with nothing to play for. So I think this is another one of those games where it probably goes comfortably under 38.5. So the Patriots are a mess, though. I don't know. We've got 5 minutes here, 4 minutes. What do you do if you're the Patriots? It's almost getting to the point where the problem is too big to fix. Where almost getting that number 1 pick is almost more of a burden than anything else because now you have a massive decision to make, and I don't know who you want making that decision or who will be making that decision.
I guess this is where I'm at with them. I still have my questions about Gerard Mayo being the man for the job because I think that what we talked about earlier and like the importance of building a culture and all that, and I really see nothing from him this year to suggest that they're on that track. If anything, it's gone in the complete opposite direction. That being said, I think the Elliott Wolf decision might be more important than the Gerard Mayo decision because the Gerard Mayo decision, if nothing else, and you want to kick that can down the road for a year, you can get away with it.
Yeah.
When you have the number 1 overall pick, a surplus of salary cap space, a dearth of talent, you're at this organizational crossroads. Like, you cannot kick the GM can down the road for a year.
Which they basically did last year.
Right. Like, you got to get it right now.
Yeah. And so here's the other thing, too. They should be, if they're even considering a coaching change, they should already be looking into that because I do think that things are kind of intertwined. Like, in a lot of places, as this evolution of the NFL continues, the head coach is more important than the guy building the roster. And sometimes they're the same person, obviously.
Yeah.
But where it's like, so if you're Ben Johnson or you're Mike Vrabel or, you want to know who's going to make that decision or maybe you want some input who's going to make that decision. So, like, it's almost like there is a world where maybe you have to figure out the coach thing first, too. I'm with you, though. Like, the most important piece is who's going to be building this roster. And whether that's tied to the coach or not, I don't know. Because, like, I think you hit on it. Like, the draft pick, the potential of making a seismic trade with that draft pick and the cap room. So many. Your roster sucks. Like, there's no talent.
Holes,
there's nobody. You're like, we're bringing this guy back. Like, everybody outside of Drake May and Christian Gonzalez should be up for debate.
Yep.
And you're probably not coming back if you want to build a good football team. So you have so much work to do. Yeah, the most important person is whoever's going to be filling out that roster.
Yeah, this isn't like
and if that's like Jonathan Kraft, that's Robert Kraft, that's Robin Glade, like, there's issues here where, like, I almost think you got to just step back. And I said this on Sunday or Saturday. Say, whoops, we screwed up. We are, like, earnestly sorry. We are sorry. We apologize. We made a bad decision. We went with something that we thought was going to work. It's not going to work. We don't see it getting a whole lot better. We need to step in and make this decision now. And we're turning the whole thing over to whoever else we're bringing in. Do they have the humility to do that? I don't know. And I think that's the biggest thing for them right now.
Yeah, this isn't like a paint by numbers fix where you look and you're like, oh, well, you have this and this and you just need this and this.
Right.
Like, they have holes everywhere. And so it is going to require a certain level of, like, creativity to be able to make this work. Like, you go, even looking at, like, the draft, like, you have the number 1 pick. And I think the best case scenario for them is they probably move down and sort of, like, I think the best case scenario for them is they move down, but they ultimately pick twice in the first round. And one of those picks being a top 5 pick. And you start to build, like, this foundational talent this year. But I mean, like, there's so many other options they could go with it. So it's just, there's no clear fix.
No, there's not. And it's a lot of work to do. So there's not a good answer. Not a good answer.
No.
Happy New Year, Ricky.
Hey, you too.
We'll be back again next week. We get into the NFL playoffs next week. Should be a lot of fun. For Ricky, I am Mike. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.